What's up? My name is DJ Eitzen, president and co-founder of Limitless Minds. Excited to be back. I was on vacation, took a week or so off, and it's nice to be back in the studio, as they say, as the kids say. And today on Limitless Live, as you know, we spend a half an hour here every day, Monday through Friday, 12:30 Eastern, to really bring you some of the best content, coaches, community, and on Fridays we have the opportunity to be able to talk to our Limitless family. And so today we have somebody from our family, somebody with a lot of experience, and I'm really excited to kind of tap into and let you guys get to know him a little bit better. Started his career at Eli Lilly, did sales training, moved his way up with some other large pharmaceutical companies. He now currently is a chief of staff for the CEO at Acadia Pharma. And we're just really excited to have him here today. Please welcome to Limitless Live, Steve Tang. What's up, my man? How's it going?
Going very well. Thank you so much for the introduction. It's so nice to see you. It's been a while. We text each other, we call each other, but it's nice to see you face to face here on stream.
Very much so. The feeling's mutual. I was looking back to see, we've been friends now for a handful of years, and we have a mutual friend that we lost with Trevor Moawad, unfortunately, who I know made an impact on you several years back, and that was kind of the our initial bond. You guys, bringing him into the pharma company you were at previously. And so I, in preparation for this, I was thinking about that, and even looking back at some of the notes. Scott Roth, I don't know if Scott Roth is on today, but he's a guy that I played college basketball with, who initially introduced me to you. And man, we've had a great friendship ever since, and I really appreciate it. So how have you been?
Doing very well. It's been a fun summer. I think we were sharing this earlier, is I have a 17-year-old and a 9-year-old. And I think for those of you that have kids at different ages, that 17-year-old or that 17-year point is when you start realizing your first or your teen is going off to college, is going to become a young adult. So my wife and I have been doing our best to take advantage of the family time, that we have left in this, while he's under our roof. But my wife spoils him. Who knows? He may not leave as he goes to college.
Well, what you were telling me offline, though, is that he's considering potentially Pepperdine. So, and if anybody's seen that campus, which obviously, Steve, you have. What an incredible place to go. I think your wife may be okay with that because she get to visit him, huh?
Exactly. I will say that's the one mistake I made, was the first campus we took him to was Pepperdine. So right away he said, "Yep, this looks good."
That's great. I have to say this. I've interviewed a lot of people, but I tell you what, man, you are probably in the top 5 dressed of all the people that have been on Limitless Live. Let's give him some shout outs in the chat room. Let me open this up, because I gotta believe somebody has complimented the gear here. So you look great, man. You look good.
Casual Fridays.
That's it. I love it. So that's his casual Friday too. That's pretty cool. So tell us a little bit. I gave the audience a little bit about your background. Tell us a little bit about your career and how you got to the seat that you're at today.
Yeah, I've had a really enjoyable career, frankly. When I was in college, my aspirations were to go through the physical therapy, or go into physical therapy. I met my best friend and mentor during that time, and he actually, owned a couple of physical therapy clinics. And I'll tell you what, he really helped shape and mold kind of my career, me as an adult. I met him when I was in high school. His name's Jim Aguilar, and he's been fantastic. So again, I started there, and he ended up referring me into pharmaceutical sales, where I knew nothing about. We used to joke it was like this secret, fraternity or sorority, right? That people join. And once you get into it, it's addictive, because a lot of companies are all about developing. They challenge you. They almost create this little franchise. They almost hand over to you as a
Mm.
pharmaceutical rep. And from that point, I was fortunate enough to be part of Eli Lilly, a medium-sized, company that had a fantastic development program. So moved throughout my career there, learned a lot about not only the industry, about people, about different functions within the business, and shortly after decided to pursue my MBA. And I think something that I learned there was I really enjoyed the strategy piece, the
Mm.
internal workings of an organization, and the different functions and how they roll, and what you really have to do to be a solid cross-functional partner and leader to help the company continue to advance towards their goals. Long story short, through different roles in with a company like Lilly, with startups like Acadia and GW Pharma, is I found my way through and met some really great people that gave me great opportunities as well, and took a lot of what I learned of not only the industry and functions, but also how to work as a cross-functional partner to really create a cadence throughout a team, throughout an organization, and
Mhm.
had this opportunity at Acadia Open, and joined them, or rejoined them, I should say, for this fantastic career path.
I love it. I love it. You said your mentor's name was Jim. Is it Jim?
Yes, Jim Aguilar. He's
Jim
physical
Aguilar.
therapy by training, but one of the most respectful, I'd say, entrepreneurs I've ever known.
And it's funny too, because you came like so. I think we both got in the industry around the same time. I think you what 2002 is that
Yeah,
when 2001 2002, and that's exactly when I came in. And you're right. I remember, coming out of college and people saying, "Hey, you got to get into pharmaceutical sales." How do you get into pharmaceutical? Everybody was trying to get in at that time. What do you,
yeah.
what do you think it was that Jim saw in you that he felt like you could be successful in that industry?
It's I would guess when I worked for him as a PT, aide, I was always curious. And also, I think he saw that I enjoyed the education component, or educating patients. And as you know, the pharmaceutical sales isn't all just sales. It's about developing that relationship. It's about educating, everyone that you touch about disease state, about product knowledge, et cetera. And I think a lot of those things were very evident,
Mm.
but also, hopefully some of the aptitude from being exposed to different disease states, different things around different sciences, and just the drive and enjoying working with different people. And I think that's why I remember him saying, he says, "Steve, I'm not even going to tell you what this job is. Just send me your resume." It was literally, it was that. And I trusted him so much. I said, "Here's my resume. So tell me more now." Like, so instead of saying, "Tell me more" before, I just sent him my resume, and he filled me in as we went.
That's cool. I mean, the first thing that you said was your curiosity, and I love that you led with that. It's so funny too because like it matches up with my interaction with you. One of the things that stick out to me is your humility, and as a leader, it's like that's not like something that people don't write books on like these leaders and around humility or some of just the things like I think of another one, discipline. These
Yeah.
aren't like the sexy things to talk about
Right.
necessarily in business. And so, you saying that, you could have said a lot of things, your work ethic and and you said you were curious. And I think that's really interesting as leaders, especially, we talk about mindset all the time, obviously with Limitless Minds, but being able just to ask really great questions and when you ask questions like that, it shows that you value the person's opinion that you're talking to. There's so many things when you ask questions that just show that you bring value, you're engaged, and so that's really cool that was something that Jim picked up on you early on. Do you still have contact with him? Then you still
Absolutely. Yeah, talk and text frequently.
uh-huh.
And again, I've reached out to him through many steps in my career. And again, he's a great, my best friend and
Love
mentor.
it.
And it was just a serendipitous the way it worked out.
That's cool. So you mentioned you have a 17-year-old son, 9-year-old
Yes.
daughter. So you got a
Uh-huh.
senior going senior, fourth grade. Um, so I have a selfish question, right? Being a
Sure.
father of five, but also just when I look at leading my house, I look at the same as leading a business and a company and our team. Um, and this idea around like boredom, right? You see our kids and they said, "Dad, I'm bored." How do you how do you how do you coach to boredom?
Yeah.
And also, how do you personally deal with boredom?
Sure. It's something with my kids. We talk to them like adults. So with my
Uh-huh.
son, when he says that, I said, "Are you bored or are you boring?" Because there's sometimes if you you can be bored, but if it's you need to really take the initiative to find something to do because especially our kids have everything at their fingertips.
Right.
So some things that we do, I know with my kids is when it comes to the summertime, ever since they're young, is what is that on that dry erase board? What are your goals for the summer? What are you
Mm,
going to do? So that way, so for example, my son is lifting weights. So now I'm waking up with him. Sometimes he's waking me up, and we're going and working out in the garage and
that's awesome.
trying to get him acquainted to lifting weights. And
I
that's
see
one
it.
of
I
his.
see it, man. I see it. Like all up in here, the feeling.
So you don't see the midsection. That's why I have this on. It covers all the mid stuff. But
That's
those are some
good.
of the things I think it's to as you know, it's you try to give them the truth, but also give them a
Yeah.
little bit to explore on their own. I know personally, for some reason, I'm attracted to different hobbies, if you will, that take a lifelong to master. So,
Yeah.
of course, I enjoy playing golf, and I get a chance to. I love jujitsu, and with that, I think back to that humility point you made. You really get to a point where you understand that there's always going to be someone better or someone you can learn from in whatever you do. So when I look at how do I, avoid being bored, I have these different hobbies that
Mm,
you never can really get complacent with because you can always do better. Not necessarily to beat someone, just to get proficient in what you do.
right.
And it's a lifelong journey, and I just seem to be attracted to those type of hobbies. And
No, yeah, that makes sense too. I mean, I think about it though. It's like right after boredom. It's and we think about I think about my kids specifically. It's like, are they consuming all the time or are they creating? You
oh yeah,
know, and it's like a lot of times I get bored and there's this like as a leader, I'm my first initial thought may be how do I keep them engaged and plugged in and give them something to do. But
right.
essentially, if they sit in that boredom for some time, um, right after that, if they allow themselves to feel that, creativity can come after that, and coming up with a cool game or engaging a friend that they haven't talked to, whatever it is. And I think about that with our teams. It's like the most engaged teams are the most productive teams, but there's times where the business is monotonous, right? You're doing the same task over and over, and it's like how do I create an environment where when my people are less engaged or in the more mundane parts of their business, how do I get them to still be creative and plugged
Yeah.
in? And so that's why I wanted to ask you that and see and get your thoughts around that. And I think it's gonna be a continued challenge
Mhm.
in this remote work environment that we're in. I talk to my team about it a lot, and just making sure that we're all staying connected and the community strong, and that we're as engaged as possible as we try to reach our goals. So
Right, and I think you mentioned something there though, is our kids or people in general, there's a point where, yeah, you do have to give them, right, give them some direction, give them something to do, but you have to also identify at what point do you create that empowerment where
mhm,
they can now own what they do and the direction they take it. So with my son with working out is, yes, I created a structure for him. He started working out, but at some points I'll let him say, okay, how should we adjust our workouts here for this week? As with an employee, as a
cool.
peer, we have our day to day, but at what point do you decide, okay, what is a strong competency this individual has? Let me offer them an opportunity or talk with them about what opportunity they'd like to take to lead, to develop around a competency or skill. And I think that's what creates a solid amount of engagement, regardless of age and what environment you're in.
Yeah, no doubt. Lane says, "Not surprised to hear humility." Oh, they yanked it. Sorry, not surprised to hear humility, curiosity, and jujitsu is in the same conversation. Yes, that's right. Try
I
saying
will
that five
say
times.
that that humility piece. So you have humility and the what is it called, the that the complex where you almost feel like you're in a position where you don't you're not what is it called,
The
the
imposter syndrome, like
imposter
not
syndrome. Yes,
deserving. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. And it's funny because Trevor said that this before as well, is stop saying stupid things because thoughts become things. So
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
go in, let's say jiu-jitsu, and you say this guy's going to choke me out, he's going to submit me, he's going to take me down, yes, he's going to do that. Or if you go into work and you have some type of a negative mindset of what is going to happen, it's likely you're putting that into the universe to happen. And I think one of the things I learned was, with humility, don't mistake it with the imposter syndrome. You have to really
mm,
differentiate the two. And the humility part is really being able to acknowledge, I'd say, what it is that, you know the limitations of what you know and how you can always get better, and
yeah.
what people really contribute towards that, versus having this false sense of the reality. And that's typically what happens with the imposter syndrome.
Yeah,
So
no question, no question. I think that impacts a lot of people. It's funny how often I hear imposter syndrome,
right.
comes up, and it's just like that negative voice that's in the back of your head telling you you're not good enough, you're not
Absolutely.
talented enough, whatever it is, and the
Yes.
ability to be able to, I think, the acknowledgement around that we all have some level of that. If you
Mhm.
acknowledge it, then it's a lot easier to deal with, and focus on in terms of like, no, I am good at X, Y, and Z, and being very specific and neutral in what that looks like, and to help you get to your goal. So I love that you unpack that for us.
Right.
Um, you've mentioned humility a couple times now, and I did initially out of the gates. We've heard it in the chat. What keeps you humble?
I really think it comes from, I always think of my dad, right? His, humble beginnings. He grew up in the Philippines. He grew up with not much. And when he made the decision, along with his brothers, to join the US military, that really created a lot of opportunities. But, seeing how he raised me, how he always focused on the family. Everything he did, he shared stories, and we lived, very simple life, but very fulfilling. Growing up, he taught us a lot with what he's able to learn and work with his hands. I used to sit with him almost every weekend working on our cars, because our cars were pieces of junk, and he was always fixing them. But it was, I think, that kind of started the learning and also the appreciation of, hey, if you don't, regardless of where you come from, you can learn and you can do more. And again, I look at what my dad has done and the doors and opportunities that he and my mom has opened up for myself and my siblings. And I got to tell you, if I'm on the golf course and taking in a beautiful view, I got to tell you, first thing I think about is just the gratitude that I have for my parents, and the road that they've really opened for us. So
That's really cool. I was listening to a podcast the other day, somebody really successful, and they were saying that their father worked all the time, 16 hours a day. So they didn't see him much. And they said, but the mom was at home, and was there, and he talked about his relationship with both parents. But he said his narrative with his father working all the time was the fact that, like, he was super proud of that, and
yeah,
like he was proud of the work ethic, and the fact that was going out making a living so that they could have a house, and the opportunities they came from Russia. And it just struck me because it's all like, it's, again, obviously, the narratives change around, work life balance and everything. It sounds like, though, with your relationship with your father, is like that was something that was really important, like, although you could look at it like, dang, we had a busted up car that we had to, broke down every weekend. Or you could say, dang, I got an opportunity every weekend to work
yes,
with my hands with my father and talk to him, and build relationship with him. And so I love that. I love that you share that, with the audience here, and myself. Let's see. We got somebody says, let's see, I don't know what I'm doing, and they'll try to figure it out, versus I don't know what I'm doing and I'll figure it out. Okay. All right.
yeah,
Got a LinkedIn user saying that. Good stuff. Lane likes your imposter syndrome and talking about that, humility being a strength too as well. I think oftentimes, in this type of environment, and I know as a chief of staff, there's a lot of things being thrown at you, Steve.
Yeah.
How do you maintain your energy level and keep a high energy level? And I'll mention too, like that is one of the fundamentals of thinking that we talk about a lot. You know, with Limitless is like energy and energy management. I'd love to hear as a top performer how you do that.
Yeah. It's interesting is I don't want to say chaos, but
Hmm.
I love it when there's a lot going on, a lot of issues, a lot of problems to solve through, and really what it takes to create clarity, not only for yourself, but help others. And I think when you look at this role, again, been exposed to all parts of the business,
Mm,
have fantastic peers that have included me early on in different projects, work streams, and really helping me become part of the team, and that has helped. But I think coming back to a lot going on and being able to help organize and create that cadence, I think that reliability across the team of how we're going to operate, how we're going to be more effective, and again, what we're doing today is going to evolve. We're working on a project internally where we're trying to continue to improve how our executive team functions. And I think that's something that, again, comes back to you heard me talk about my hobbies, talking about, how I grew up and the things we did. It's always about taking current state and what does it, how can you make that future state much stronger based off of learnings? And again, something my mentor always says is, however you operated last year, you can't operate the same way. You have to
that's right.
find out, what did you learn? How can you be more efficient and effective in what you do? I've talked to my son about that with studying. It touches all parts of your life.
No
So
question. No, that's good. You mentioned in that the future and kind of looking forward. And I mean, if I pick up a Harvard Business Review right now, or I even turn on, the CNBC, within the first 20 minutes, I'm going to hear something about AI, right?
yes.
And so, what's your mindset around AI as a leader,
Yeah.
and how it's going to impact our business, and how we should be either embracing it or pushing it, whatever your thoughts are
You,
along
you
that.
It's interesting is AI can really accelerate a lot of things.
Hmm.
I think what's key, what is critical though, is the folks that use AI really understand what it is that, really the fundamentals, if you will. Because sometimes if you have the answer just given to you, you don't know what questions led to that answer. And sometimes I feel like that's what AI provides. And it's not a bad thing. It's just that if you are provided this answer and you encounter adversity and issues, are you going to be able to problem solve backwards to what the question was, what you were trying to solve for? So I think that's one caution that we should take. But at the same time, we should also take a look at our organizations, look at different functions, and say, where can we create some efficiencies with, let's say, leveraging AI to process a lot of information so that we have a better, let's say, executive, summary of a topic,
Yeah.
because that could really accelerate our learning process as well. I think, again, when you look at the predictive analytics as well of what it can also help with, I think that's key, is what can it help with versus what can it do for you.
Yeah.
I think that's where, I think we don't know the answer. I just know I have my own biases where we want to leverage it as a tool, but we don't want it to dominate what we do, because
Hmm.
there's so much creativity that you get from people. There's a lot of knowledge, a lot of diversity, if you will, that you may lose out in some of that discussion when you are trying to problem solve, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, for
again,
sure.
I think we all have to find for different functions how you can utilize it, but just make sure it doesn't just blindly do the work for you.
Yeah. No, it's so true. You mentioned a couple things in there. You talked about process, you talked about people, as it pertains to AI. And I think in the final question that I want to ask you is like, this has been on my mind here recently. And it came to me the other day. It was like, the black and white things, like, are very easy to solve for. You can solve for it with a process. You can Google it and get the answer very quickly, right? It's the gray area and the people part, right, that become really challenging. And I know you're like, that's probably what mostly comes to your desk, right? If it was easy in a process, it's done. But
Right.
it's the gray stuff. How do you how do you as an individual leader be great in the gray?
Yeah. I like you said, the gray is always the people part. I
Hmm.
think that's something that through different roles that I've had, you just have to realize that everyone's situation is different. There's so many external factors at play. Again, if you can, trust is a big piece where if
Hmm.
you really trust the group you're working with and you encounter gray, let's say it's a gray area where you're trying to come up with a solution, you're trying to advance a problem or a project or a situation. I think in those cases, you really have to rely on people. You also
Yeah.
have to have a little grace as well. There are points you're going to have to roll up your sleeves a little more,
Yep.
and just know that everyone else will continue to give as much as they can at that point. Not saying that standards should be lowered, but
Right.
you have to realize things happen, especially as I get older. You have your kids you throw into things, you have your health that you throw into things.
That's right.
It becomes challenging.
Yeah.
And
It's
again,
true.
I think that's just my 2 cents around that.
I love it. No, I love it, and I just think it's as leaders. I mean, the ability to be able to be great in the gray is really what'll set you apart. And so focusing on that is truly important. The other question I'll have just to close out with the gray is how, and we can put this in the chat. How do you guys spell gray? Do you spell it Gray or Grey? Now
I,
listen. How
I think
about
it depends. If you watch Grey Anatomy, you'll spell it Grey, right?
I think, and
Yeah,
I don't know,
I
man.
don't
I'd love
know.
to hear people's take on that, though. No, but
That's funny.
it is funny. And also too, I want to let you know, Catherine Graham is celebrating a birthday today, who I know
Oh,
and it's part of our
yes.
Limitless Minds family as
Happy
well.
birthday.
Wait, let's see. Okay, Mari says Gray, Grey, all the way. Okay, all right, good. That's good. That's good.
Oh,
So shout out to Catherine for your birthday. Um,
happy birthday.
and selfishly, I want to know before we bounce here, what books are you reading? What podcasts are you listening to? I think our listeners would want to hear that too as well.
It's funny is one of the books I picked up is called 12 Rules of Life. And it's funny, it talks about a lot of these things that we just spoke about. It's
Okay.
not only for yourself, inward facing, but also, treating others. So that's one book as well. I forgot
Okay.
the author. I'll have to
All good.
find.
All good.
I
Yeah.
thought my podcast here, making sense is one that I listen to regularly. I'll tell you, Sam Harris is someone that is a master of the English language, right?
Okay.
Interpretation. And again, sometimes these podcasts can get a little political, but again, I like the way he breaks things up and you try to take a listen in an unbiased view. That's one I
Love it.
do. Of course, Joe Rogan is someone I always am entertained by his guests and his views of
Right.
everything. These are, I'd say, my top two go-to
Got it,
pods.
man. No, that's great. It's so awesome to have you on. It's so great to have you as a friend, man. For real. It's been really cool to go on this journey with you. And again, shout out to Scott Roth. He's about 6'9". You'll see
Yeah,
him. If you see him walking around Nashville somewhere spending a
right.
whole bunch of money, that's Scott Roth. That's my boy.
Yeah.
I remember
If it wasn't for him, he wouldn't have. I think it would have taken much longer for us to connect. But
I think we
he,
would have though. The universe would
yeah,
have brought us together, man. So, but no, hey, keep doing great things, man. And you got a mindset of a champion, and it shows through in every aspect of your life. And so
thank you so much.
again, we appreciate the relationship, what you do. And for everybody else out there, again, you know where to find us: LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the stuff. All right, come and see us every day at 12:30. Download Club Limitless, be a part of the Limitless Minds family. Then reach out to us on the website. Do whatever you got to do to hang out. All right. But listen, we want to impact the world one mindset at a time, and this is one way to do it. So we appreciate you again, Steve, and we'll talk to everybody soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All
Bye.
right. Bye now.